The Drop Back with Sam Lewis, Matt Burns-Peak and Joe Costanzo.
Hi and welcome back to the Drop Back podcast. I am your host this week once again, Joe Costanzo, and I'm joined down the line by one of the most attractive pond dwellers I've ever met in my life.
Stop it.
I know. Matthew Burns-Peak.
Howdy doody,
How you
Mr.
doing,
Joe?
mate?
I'm good.
It
has been a while. Hostess with the mostest now.
Yeah, you are. You're officially the co-host that makes the Joe
The most.
the most. Yeah.
Good.
So we've got a lot to talk about today.
We do.
There are these things called the playoffs. They just happened last week.
Mm-hmm.
The Wildcard round in particular. And just before we get into that, a little tidbit on the side here, because you know I love my tidbits.
You do love your tidbits.
I love the bits of tits. But the biggest tidbit that's coming out, other than the playoffs, of course, is Jason Garrett finally got fired.
He gone. Cowboys fans everywhere rejoice.
He's out of here, finally. No more 8-8 seasons. Who have you got to replace him? Mike McCarthy.
The McCarthy man. It is a bit of a strange one. I mean, what do you think about this one, Joe? Good move, bad move? I mean, obviously Garrett had to go, but McCarthy, is he the guy, do we think?
Yeah, I thought it's a bit... Because a lot of the Cowboys fans and sort of press had this whole envisioned idea of Urban Meyer, Lincoln Riley, or one of these big college head coaches coming in and giving the Cowboys a try. But I don't think, if you're a Cowboys fan, and I thank God am not, I wouldn't really know what to think about this, because obviously he's won a Super Bowl, but how much credit can you really give Mike McCarthy for that offense that won the Super Bowl when it was effectively just run by Aaron Rodgers?
The bad man in his prime.
Yeah, so I'm a bit... Oh, sorry. I'm just a bit torn between, what expectation versus reality here.
Yeah, I know what you mean, Joe. And I think if you're a Cowboys fan, you want to look at this in the best possible way. You've got to take it in terms of, you could have had Marvin Lewis. He was another candidate that was interviewed as well, and they went with McCarthy in front of him. It's a bit of a strange one, to be honest, because McCarthy, he's not a bad coach. Since 2006, he's second in the league for playoff wins out of all the coaches. First is obviously Bill Belichick. He's a demigod. You're never going to catch him. He's an extraterrestrial man who came down from a different planet that does coaching. But so McCarthy has got a decent pedigree. It's just the way that things sort of were left with him in Green Bay. It just seemed a bit strange. There was lots of talk about his coaching style and his man management ability there. It just feels like a bit of an anticlimactic hire. It doesn't seem like a cowboy coach, if you know what I mean.
And yeah, to happen so instantly as well. Like we were joking about it, but Jason Garrett's body was barely cold by the time that Mike McCarthy got hired. He stayed the night at Jerry Jones's house.
Jones jumped straight into bed with McCarthy while Garrett was still packing his things. It was pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was pretty savage from the Jerry man. But either way, it beats Marvin Lewis. And it's kind of weird that you have to resort to...
They've even got to say that, but
we could have had that. Yeah, but I just think the expectations of what every Cowboys fan was really excited to speculate about these high-profile college coaches compared to, a Super Bowl winning coach, but is it the right one? I'm not sure.
No, I agree with that. I think it's a fairly safe hire, but I mean, it still doesn't address the biggest question that the Cowboys have going into the offseason this year, which is still the Dak Prescott conundrum and how they build that roster and if he's the guy for them. So, I mean, I think McCarthy will be fine. I don't think he's going to come in and galvanize the Cowboys, franchise and bring it back to what it once was. I could be completely wrong, but he just doesn't strike me as that sort of charismatic, up and coming, exciting coach that you'd maybe want to see there if you're a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, and he's just not necessarily. I know, obviously, he had Aaron Rodgers, but he's not the biggest QB whisperer, as people like to call it, out of the potential head coaches that all the names were swirling around. But, that's our 5 minutes of the Cowboys done. Let's get into what really matters.
Exactly. We don't have to talk about them again. Fantastic.
All right. So moving on, we've got the sort of a recap of the wild card in just a few key takeaways here. One of the biggest takeaways, as you've seen probably all over your YouTube recommended at this point, is the Patriots dynasty.
It's gone.
Is it gone?
It's over. Ryan Tannehill is a dynasty destroyer. You've heard it here first, fans.
Well, like a little recap on the game. Tennessee basically got trumbled all over the Patriots defense with Derrick Henry. He rushed for over 100 yards in the first half.
Dominant.
Had over 180 yards in total on the game. And he exposed what many people had kind of speculated around the Patriots defense, is that they weren't that good against the run or against good rushing teams.
Soft underbelly.
Yeah, and it just... A lot of people, and myself included, thought that this matchup, the Tennessee matchup, was one of the worst matchups that the Patriots could have had in the first round of the playoffs. Anyway, and it was really interesting to sort of see just the reaction from everyone immediately after it happened. Just the speculation that the dynasty's done, it's all finished, and I want to hear our resident Dolphin fan opinion on the whole thing.
Well, I want to first of all give a massive, kudos to Chris Greer and his master plan to, first of all, basically play dead for the entire season and then beat the Patriots just before the playoffs to ruin their seeding, and then also with even better long-term view, send Ryan Tannehill to the Titans to set him up to beat the Patriots. Outrageous GM play.
That's some ridiculous moves right there.
He's a straight-up guru for that. But, I mean, on a serious note, Derrick Henry was absolutely fantastic. He was exactly the sort of player that Patriots defense had no answer to. They seemed to have an answer to everything else. Number one receivers, and well-balanced aerial attacks. They took away with ease throughout the season, but they never really looked super convincing against strong rushing attacks, as you said. And Derrick Henry just took it to them for the entire game. It was a bit of a strange one because I think, again, it wasn't hugely high scoring. It was another one of those things where we've seen it a few times, especially towards the end of this season, where the Patriots offense just looked limp the whole game. It looked like one of those games where, yes, their defense was taking a bit of a pounding by Derrick Henry, but like I said, the score line wasn't ridiculous. You still sort of felt that there was the opportunity there for them to rally and get something out of that game, as we've seen the Patriots do sort of a billion times in the last 20 years, but it just never happened. And I think it kind of, for me, I mean, this might just be me holding out hope, Joe, but I feel like this could be Brady. I don't think he'll retire. I don't think this is the last we've seen of Tom Brady, but I think certainly the end of this season, we're going to see Brady next season. Maybe not in a Patriots jersey, but we are going to see him. But I don't think it's going to be the dominant Tom Brady that we've gotten used to over the last few years.
Yeah, I totally agree to some extent, at least, that Brady won't be playing for the Patriots next year. I think if you look at what happened sort of at the end of the Manning era, when he just started to decline rapidly, it's hard to pinpoint whether or not this is necessarily Brady's fault, in the sense that he hasn't been given the offensive weapons this year that he has in years past. And I know they seem to be grabbing random janitors and things like that to create a team, but the offensive production from the receivers and stuff just hasn't been there this year at all. And
that is true.
They've had to rely a lot on Julian Edelman, who just has been injured the last few weeks. And he was their only really productive receiver this season. We were Patriots fans were hoping that Neil Harry took a big step up, which he just didn't in that game. They looked a bit flat. And they've kind of just looked flat all year. Like I said last week, if you score more than 17 points, you're likely to beat the Patriots just by the way their offense is playing this year. And
which is madness when you look back historically at how they've built their teams.
Exactly. Like if you look back at I know this is now 13 years ago, but the 2007 Patriots that broke all the records in the world, and you look at them now. And it's amazing that they've been able to do what they can do. In all hats off, credit to them to sustaining a 20-year-long franchise is in the NFL in a salary capped league is amazing. But it seems like if they lose Tom Brady this year, they're probably going to be Bill Belichick is going to be scrambling to create an offense. I know they're really keen on Jared Stidham, and quite a lot of the Patriots brass are quite keen on him as their backup QB. He had a pretty good preseason, but I mean, what's that to say now? And I don't know. It seems like in that 2017 where there was all that hype about Bill Belichick and Tom Brady being at ends with each other, and Belichick wanting to get rid of Brady. When there's smoke, I think there is kind of a bit of fire. Yeah, and I think Robert Kraft isn't going to have as much of a leg to stand on this year, in the sense that if that is true, as he might have done in 2017. I think just out of the production we saw, like we are starting to see maybe a decline. But who do you think out of the teams in the NFL that you could imagine Brady on next year?
That's a difficult one, because I feel like the Bengals are locked in on getting Joe Burrows with that one overall pick. That's pretty much, I think, a done deal at this point. Other than that, I know you and Slew have mentioned about the possibility of Brady in Miami, sort of 1 year deal.
South Beach, baby.
South Beach Brady, which would be a really interesting emotional roller coaster to go on, because I really can't stand Tom Brady, but he is good at winning. So I personally don't see that happening. I think that there are potentially a few other teams that could use a Brady. But I mean, for me, my biggest takeaway from this is, if you look back to when they had, like you're saying, in 2017, when they had the Garoppolo and the Brissett, and they had a quarterback room which looked fantastic and it looked like it could cope with if Brady went down injured, or if Brady decided to ride off into the sunset. You look at the Patriots' offensive, not just the quarterback room, but the offense in general, it doesn't look like it could deal with losing its star quarterback. It doesn't look like it's in a position where they've got someone there. I know I mentioned didn't, but they don't seem to have a natural sort of heir who's ready and to go in and elevate the quarterback position from an aging Brady. It looks like if they do lose Brady, they're going to lose even more production from an offense which didn't, hold its weight whatsoever this season.
Yeah, if you lose him, who do you realistically replace him with now? Because Tua is probably going to be gone at that stage. And I know you're keen on Stidham, but he is basically preseason hype, really, at the end of the day. So
they've got to draft someone as well, but it's a lot to put on a young QB, be they a second year or a rookie. To look, Brady's gone. The keys are yours now. We're building around you. You've got it's a bit of a Jesus. How do I follow that sort of moment? Which is why if you're a Patriots fan, it must be really strange to know that you were in such a good position to be able to deal with this 2 years ago, and then you got rid of Garoppolo, you got rid of Brissett, and you haven't really filled in that gap.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be weird seeing him another. I could imagine him going. There's a few teams. I could imagine maybe the Broncos. I mean, the only thing I would think the Broncos and the Colts, but the only thing holding that back is just that Brady himself wouldn't want to be associated with Peyton Manning. So, and then on the other side of things, maybe. I'm pretty keen on Miami. I know you want to, but I think I just think it'd be too weird to stay in the division.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's weird. It's just weird to see the Patriots go out not with like a bang, but more like a whimper, really.
Especially with how good they were at the start of the season, and how amazing that defense was for most of the season. To see them lose in that fashion, and the defense sort of not really be able to deal with it. But at times it did just look like Derrick Henry's a huge man, but it did just look like
scary,
a massive bloke beating up kids at some points during that game, which is really weird from a unit that's been so dominant the whole season.
He's just a large boy, 6'3" pounds of pure boy,
pure boy, and he's a free agent at the end of the season. And I would love for Miami to throw a whole bucket of money in.
There's no way Tennessee don't re-sign Derrick Henry. There's literally no way. He's he's proving he's the best running back in the league at the moment, and
It's all about the big bucks.
Yeah, true. Well, I'm going to get further into it when we go on to our game picks anyway. But yeah, so the other big takeaway from the wildcard games on the weekend were a bit of a controversy, a little bit of a, envision this, right? Envision this. So over the last few years, the New Orleans Saints have been had a bit of a blatant ref miscalls and some bad luck in the playoffs.
That could be said, yes.
After driving down the field, thanks to an amazing reception in the first period of overtime to Adam Thielen, gets him to the 2-yard line. Almost a great stop, gets into third and about 6 left, third and goal. End zone fade, Kirk Cousins to the left, Kyle Rudolph, game-winning touchdown. Ends a bit anticlimactically. I remember when we were watching it just looked a bit weird. Just watching this large man go up and just kind of like, oh, I've just won the game. Okay, cool. I'm just going to... All right. But then we look at the replay and it looks like Kyle Rudolph had a little shovey shove.
A little tuggy tug. And, I know it's shocking that yet again we're talking about the Saints getting done over in the playoffs by refs. But for me, I think it was a PI. I know, it's one of those where I feel like you could look at pretty much every game in the NFL and you'll see a few catches a game which are a bit like this. And almost every week they go different ways. One week we'll see that given as a PI, another week we'll see that wiped off, and it basically changes with each officiating crew. But for me, that should be a PI. Rudolph's waited until the ball is close. He's just basically thrown a stiff arm on Williams to knock him off balance, and then is able to make an uncontested catch. I feel like if it was the other way around and that's getting flagged for defensive PI all day, why would it not be the same for offensive? So for me, it was a PI. What about you, Jay?
I think, realistically, I don't think it's one of those that it would be a harsh call, to have that in a regular season game. But if you're in the playoffs, I do get it. Like, every scoring play should be reviewed, and it was reviewed, and they said nothing. And the refs left the stadium covered in getting hailed at trash from the Saints fans. But
class.
Whether or not it was a push off, I think that at the end it's easy to blame the refs in these situations, but the Saints fans should just be angrier at their team's performance. I mean, they were outperformed for 3 out of those 4 quarters. Drew Brees went into the second half 8 for 12, 63 yards and an interception. That's pretty terrible. And he finished the game with over 200 yards. 200 yards passing, and 78.8% completion percentage. But he only had 6.3 yards an attempt. So and Alvin Kamara showed a lack of production that we've kind of been accustomed to seeing this year as well.
It just wasn't good. I mean, I couldn't have really said it better, Joe. For me, yes, it was a PI, but that's not the reason why the Saints lost. The Saints lost because they dropped an egg on the biggest game of the season. Their best player by far on the day was on the offensive side of the ball with Taysom Hill, and we've seen him in bits and bobs over the season, and he's a fun gadget player. But if he's your only point of offensive production, then something's going wrong. The Saints just could not get out of their own way with stupid penalties. That horrible fumble by Breeze in the fourth quarter. They kept making mistakes that we don't see from that Saints team. I felt like that whole game I was sort of waiting for the Saints to just compose themselves, be like, okay, right, well, let's just win this game now and get it together and start firing again. And it just never really clicked. The PI call is what it is, but the Saints can only blame themselves for losing that game. And also, to be fair, give credit to the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, who played phenomenally. Kirk Cousins receives a lot of stick, rightly or wrongly, for his big game no-shows or mishaps, but he was absolutely excellent yesterday, I thought.
Yeah, he did exactly what he needed to be honest. Like, I know Stephon Diggs was getting annoyed at some points in the game when he wasn't receiving the ball as much. He's a little bit of a diva, but I think that Saints O-line allowed 12 sacks in total on the season and allowed 3 sacks on the day. The Minnesota D-line were really good. Just both run their rush defense and just getting to the quarterback with Daniil Hunter and God, I've had an absolute mind fart. But who am I thinking of?
Who are you thinking of?
Daniil Hunter.
And who's the other one? he's super famous.
I'm gonna have to check the notes on this one.
Nah, screw it.
I'm just kidding. But
Emerson Griffin.
Everson Griffin, that's
the one. I always have mind farts with names, but that's the kind of thing. Like you said, it was penalties, missed scoring opportunities, and just despite a few big plays. And yeah, Michael Thomas was good on the game. He was your best receiver on the game, but despite a few big plays, the Saints receivers had really struggled all night, and their secondary, despite having Marshawn Lattimore and Marcus Williams, who have been in the Pro Bowl in years prior, got burnt deep on numerous times to Adam Thielen, 2 of which led to scores. I think they just underperformed at the end of the day. It's not down. It's easy to say, this might. Oh, the ref screwed us again. But one, you don't know what Drew Brees and the Saints offense are going to do if they got the ball back after a field goal. And also, I can't imagine it would have turned out any different just given how they've been performing.
Yeah, I mean the PI call sucks, but the Saints did not play well and didn't deserve to win the game, and that's the important takeaway I think from the game. You can complain all you want about the rest, but if you play trash, then ultimately you deserve to lose.
That's the be all end all of it.
One other little takeaway I just want to kind of throw in here for the wildcard, just get your opinion on it. Was it a bit disappointing to see in that Eagles game Carson Wentz go down in the first quarter with an injury?
Yes, it was. I feel like you never like to see from a player first perspective and athletes. You never like to see people get injured. Full stop. If they're a player that's on your most hated rival, then even then you still shouldn't be glad that someone gets hurt. But I think also from the spectatorism of this game in particular, as soon as Carson Wentz went down, I think you, me, and Sam were all like, well, that's pretty much going to be it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because that Eagles rosters looked banged up, even with Wentz out there. At times it almost looked a bit like a preseason roster where you were sort of scrambling to try and work out who just caught that pass or who just did that block,
etc. Who the hell is Boston Scott?
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, credit to Josh McCown. He
didn't have a bad game. To be fair,
he was good. He was decent. But yeah, it was a downer that Carson Wentz, got injured so early on. And I think from that point on, we all sort of thought it was going to be a Seahawks win, but it didn't actually end up being as convincing as we thought it might be. To be fair.
Yeah, they kind of lingered in there for a fair amount of the game. They had a few chances at the end to tie it, but it's just it must have been difficult to watch that as an Eagles fan. I know a lot of the media were taking the Eagles in that one, but I took the Seahawks because I'm a genius and I know how many times they've got injured.
There you go. There it is.
That's the main
folks. Thing. Joe is a football picking genius.
I'm a guru. And on note of the Minnesota game, let's get into the previews for the divisional round of the playoffs.
Please do.
We've got the 6th seed in the NFC, Minnesota, taking on number 1 in the NFC, San Fran. Who have you got on this one?
Who you got? With all due, so as I said, I was really impressed with the Vikings, to be fair, on Sunday. I thought they played a really good game on offense and defense. I thought that Kirk Cousins showed up in a big game. And I felt, I was quite happy for him in that respect because of the stick that he gets. Do I think that's going to translate to another upset of the 49ers? Absolutely not. If I'm honest, I think the 49ers are going to get the win against the Vikings this week, and I think that they are going to sort of write the script. And I can only really see the 49ers winning this one, to be honest. Joe, what about you?
Yeah, I think it's going to be there's quite a few of these, to be honest, but the rushing attack in this game will probably make the difference. I think the 49ers while the
Minnesota is obviously shown with Dalvin Cook that they're really good at running the ball.
I just think the weapons for this for 49ers, they've got 3 very capable running backs in Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert, and Matt Breida. And Kittle always seems to get open on play action passes. I swear to God, this man is an absolute unit.
Machine.
Yeah, he's just going to get open. He's going to be the difference maker. They're going to establish the run early. Well, this is what I envision anyway. Establish the run early, play action pass to Kittle all day. He's going to be open. You just can't cover the man. He's ridiculous. And while I think, the one difference maker I see potentially with Minnesota is their pass rush, who has caused problems, and we saw them cause problems in the Saints game.
They were really good in the Saints game,
We've seen McGlinchey and Joe Staley give up a fair amount of sacks in the season. So I could imagine the Vikings, maybe exposing that, but
getting some pressure on old Jim,
I think Kyle Shanahan's coach of the year. He's gonna have lots of if in the case that they're giving up too much pressure, he's going to start running, jet sweep motions with the wide receiver, get someone open some way. And I think the Vikings run the ball well too, but just not good enough. I think it's going to be a pretty clear San Fran victory. But well done, Minnesota, for getting here, and that's the main thing.
Yeah, well done, Minnesota. I agree. I think
a participation award.
Well done, you tried. I think you're right. I think as you sort of touched on there, Kyle Shanahan is basically too smart a bloke, and is in a situation where he has all the weapons at his disposal that he can. He's good at in-game adjustments. He's good at being creative on the offensive side of the ball, even when things aren't going particularly well. He's good at changing things, and he's in a situation with San Fran, which is why they've been so successful this season, where he has the weapons in each sort of aspect of the offense to be able to change things up and make things work. Even though that Minnesota pass rush was awesome against the Saints, I think that Shanahan's smart enough to be able to find ways around that for San Fran to still be able to establish themselves on the offense.
Yeah, we haven't even mentioned the 49ers defense,
which is
been
sick.
Amazing.
Yeah,
they've just been possibly, in my opinion, the best defensive football. I know they kind of slowed down near the end of the season in some aspects, but I think they're going to come into this fresh. They're going to take over the game. I don't think they're necessarily going to get many sacks, just because I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to throw the ball that often. But that's what I imagine happening anyway.
Yeah.
And we're moving on to the next Saturday game. It's another number 6 team in the AFC now.
Ooh.
Tennessee taking on the number 1.
Oh, here we go.
Baltimore Ravens.
Here we are.
Do you want to begin, or shall I?
Oh no, please, Jerry. It's your team. You take it away, sir.
I will admit, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will admit, I'm watching Derrick Henry run all over the Patriots. Did instill a bit of fear in me.
Looks nasty.
But as a Baltimore fan, this is kind of how I hoped, even though didn't necessarily predict, but how I hoped the AFC playoff picture would turn out, in the sense that we're not going to have to play Houston or Buffalo, who, I mean, Houston we kind of demolished, but
subtle brag.
Yeah, I'm just saying it how it is, But I can imagine this Tennessee team. I think this game might only take an hour.
Yeah,
honestly, because I don't envision them not feeding the ball to Derrick Henry as often as possible, especially if he's going to have the same sort of success. And I'm not saying he will, because I think Brandon Williams is a great interior, and Arthur Pierce as well, great interior run stuffers, and they're not going to allow that inside run that the Patriots seem to get gashed on every play. I think just the tools that we have on offense, the system that we've installed with Greg Roman this year is going to be too much for Tennessee to handle. Yeah, I think we're going to end up scoring lots of points, and we're going to get ahead early, and it's going to be the same thing that we do. And I don't think that Tennessee style of offense
doesn't work if they're trailing.
Really. Yeah, it doesn't help if you're trailing in the football game. I know Mike Vrabel managed to do the whole 2-minute offense of just handing the ball off to Derrick Henry against the Patriots somehow, but
I just don't think that's gonna work here. I think
They ain't gonna fly in Baltimore.
Yeah, we're gonna get ahead. We're gonna get probably a touchdown ahead and just sort of sit a touchdown ahead at least most of the game. I do think the Titans have got a good defense, a great rushing attack, but I just don't think. I think our defense is just better than theirs, and our rushing attack is just better than theirs. I think Lamar Jackson is an MVP for a reason, and it's unanimous. Baltimore take it. What are you thinking?
I mean, I'm gonna go ahead, and as much as I hate to give you pleasure and agree with your opinions, Joe, I think that you are spot on with this one.
It feels good.
Yeah, you are spot on. I think it is going to be a Baltimore win. The only way I could see it not being a Baltimore win is if something horrible happened, like Lamar Jackson got injured or something like that.
Why does everyone say that? It's so annoying.
I don't want it to happen. I'm just saying that if it did happen, then that would be bad for you. But I don't want it to happen. There's a difference.
Yeah, of course it would be bad. He's our starting quarterback. What would happen if? Well, I was going to say Ryan Tannehill. Anyway, yeah.
But yeah, I would agree. I think that Baltimore are going to win. Baltimore will. Ultimately they've got too much for the Titans, I think. And as you said, I think if the Ravens get up by a score or a couple of scores early on, then the Titans aren't equipped to be able to come back with their style of offense. And the Ravens secondary is too good to be able to give Ryan Tannehill the ability to, make things happen in the air, I feel.
Yeah, I imagine we'd probably handle, AJ, and I think, it's just if you stop Derrick Henry and then you don't allow the play action pass, which seems to be where they get a lot of their production anyway. So yeah, I can't see it going any other way. Let's move on to the Sunday games. The first of the Sunday games, which is number 4 in the AFC, Houston takes on number 2 in the AFC, Kansas City. Who you got on this one?
I'm going to go. This is the one that I think I'm probably most stuck on, to be honest, because Deshaun Watson was ridiculous in that comeback against the Bills. Like that play where he was getting hit, everyone's seen it. The Deshaun Watson play where he should have been sacked twice hard and somehow manages to spin out and get that big completion. He was straight up ridiculous in the clutch. And we've sort of seen that from Deshaun Watson a few times now. When Houston need a big play, Deshaun Watson seems to have the answer. But the trouble is he's also coming up against Patrick Mahomes, who is, he hasn't been as impressive as maybe he was last season, but he's still flat out ridiculous and probably the best thrower of the football in the league. I think it's going to be really high scoring, and I think the Chiefs probably edge it, but I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, I kind of agree here. Like it's going to be surprisingly closer than people think. I know Mahomes and Hill in their first matchup they weren't 100%, and that was evident to see. And that's what a lot of the Kansas City fans said after Houston came away with the upset. I'm hoping in my heart of hearts that Houston pull off the upset here, but I can't see it with the production that we saw late on in the season out of Mahomes and co. I think a healthy Pat Mahomes and a healthy Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, all the weapons that they have,
all the bits,
doing
all
bits.
The bits.
LaShawn McCoy having a revival of his career late on in his years.
Damian Williams as well, out of Miami. You'd love to see it.
Yeah, you got a whole list of weapons there, and I think just Kansas City will probably edge it. I do think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be closer than people give it credit for. But like you said, I think Kansas City take this one.
Yeah, my prediction is that it's going to be the best game to watch from a neutral perspective next weekend. I think it's going to be the closest, most points, most action, because I think the Ravens will beat the Titans fairly comfortably. And the way that, like I said, the way you said the Titans go at things with the run attack, it can be a little bit laborious to watch. I feel like Mahomes Watson is going to be sparks flying, air balls everywhere. It's going to be chaos, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch from that respect.
Yeah, for sure. And the other thing, maybe what gives it the edge as well, is that Kansas City's secondary have got better.
They were shocking last year.
So maybe one costly turnover from Watson or something later on in the game might take it there. But it'll definitely be an awesome watch. I'm going to be
tuning in,
stuck to the screen, praying that Mahomes throws 7 picks and we don't have to play him in the AFC Championship game. But so moving on to the last one of the day. The last Sunday game is number 4 Seattle against number 2 Green Bay.
It is a good one. There's another good game. Another close game, I think, as well.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear you say that, because I really thought you're gonna get on the bandwagon for Green Bay.
No, I'm going the opposite. I'm going all in on the Seahawks here, champ.
Ooh.
Yeah, I like Dangerous Wilson right now. I think that he did enough against the Eagles, and flashed moments where you're like, yeah, that's a ridiculous throw. I thought DK Metcalf was outstanding as well. And I think they're going to roll into Green Bay and they're going to cause a bit of an upset. I think that the defense for the Seahawks was decent as well against the Eagles as well. I think a lot of people are putting this as a fairly comfortable Green Bay win, but I don't see it like that.
I can't believe I agree with you, to be honest. I really thought we were going to disagree on this one. I think we've gone...
We might have gone 4 for 4.
We're so in sync. See, when Slew's not here, everything's channeled, everything's zen, everyone's thinking the same thing.
It's all zen. But
it's all gravy.
I think that whole mantra that Russell Wilson was spewing at the end of the Seahawks game, the whole road warrior thing, like really resonates with me. And Russell Wilson in road games this year, I am indeed. I can't stand being at home. It sucks.
Hates being at home. Joe hates houses.
I do. That's why I sleep on the streets. But anyway, so Russell Wilson in road games this year is 107.2 passer rating, 12-3 touchdowns to interceptions for a 70.76 completion percentage. And Seattle's defense in the same span of road games has allowed 9 touchdowns, but had 14 interceptions. So I think that whole Road Warriors mentality super resonates with me. I totally think that Russell Wilson, like you said, he just makes throws that you look at and you're like, Jesus Christ, how the hell did he fit that in there? That doesn't make any sense. He's hit the guy right in the hands. He wasn't even expecting the ball, but right in the schnozzer. But I think if Green Bay can get to Russell Wilson with Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, they'll have a chance to win the game. But I think that Packers defense isn't
It's been
that
hit and
good
miss, I think,
in the grand scheme of things.
I think Green Bay as a team have been a bit hit and miss at times this season. They've lost a few games where you're a bit like, how have you lost that? You're Green Bay, you should have won that by miles. I just sort of feel like almost the bye will work against them, and it could, the Seahawks could be catching them a little bit cold, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, they're going to have the momentum going into it. I think the whole sort of Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith get a lot of credit, but like I was just giving them, to be honest, and I'm going to completely
think they're
screw
rubbish.
myself over here and say that despite the O-line for the Seahawks being kind of justifiably not good, the Packers actually have the second lowest adjusted sack rate in the NFL.
It's a nice little stat attack.
And it is a little stat attack. I love me stats, don't I? But the best way to get your stats, by the way, is just looking on the gambling websites.
Oh, I like it. Maybe we should
everything.
make this like a regular little segment where it's like Joe's football advice. You just give little...
Joe gambles away all his
money. The best
money.
place to go for stats is the gambling websites.
Yeah. Yes, let's go to William Hill. No, we aren't sponsored by William Hill. I kind of wish we were, but I think we should clarify that we're not.
But if William Hill do want to sponsor us, then the door's always
not
open.
That you can't be. But yeah, I do think that it's a lot of people are gonna just automatically pick the Packers here, but I just think that the momentum's all gonna be Seahawks. I totally on board with the Road Warrior hype. I've got them get into the NFC Championship game against their division rival, the San Francisco
big.
49ers.
That would be a good one.
And that's going to be a fun watch.
You love it.
The three-peat. I've not seen a three-peat like this since...
Me on our fantasy.
Oh, there we go. I'll set them up for you, knock them down. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, as unfortunately we have to come to the end of the day, the end of the night, and we have to go to sleep soon. So
I'm going to have to wrap things up here.
you should follow us on The Drop Back on Instagram and Twitter, The Drop Back UK on Facebook. Get up with our news and shenanigans on thedropback.com on our website.
You'll love it.
You will love it. I've been Joe.
And I've been Matt. See you later.
And peace out.